Sharp Game here, coming at you with another episode from ChooseYourRelationships.com off of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. You know, there's a lot of guys out here that, I've known for over 20 years now. And, a couple days ago, I called one of my old friends and we were reminiscing about how things were when we were in the Navy and how things was when we got out of the Navy. And a lot of the people I used to roll with back in the day, they kind of have regrets and they're kind of tired. They're kind of burned out. And I say that to say that, there's like this kind of myth that a lot of guys like being around a lot of women. I should say they enjoy being around a lot of women, but they don't want a relationship. They want to live that fast life. They want to live that life, and they glamorize it. And there's like that's that perception that's within the mainstream media. And the truth is, most black men that I know black men better than anybody else because obviously I'm a black male. Most black men that I know in America and all around the world that I've met, they really don't want to be a player. They don't really glamorize that. They don't really pat themselves on the back. I mean, to be honest, personally, I think running through a bunch of women or running through a bunch of men, if you're a woman, I think it's kind of corny, to be honest. Seriously. And I think usually whenever I hear a guy, a girl, man or woman that's running through people sexually, it's usually some drug activity going on, or they got some mental problem. That's usually what it is. And I'm probably 97% right in most cases, because it takes a special type of person to just run through people with no conscience and move on to the next person like nothing happened last night with the other person that you just met. And it takes a special person to just cut somebody off after you done spent months and weeks around them, after you done gave up the goods, and all of a sudden you get brand new, act like nothing ever happened, and move on to the next Joe. It takes a special person with a certain mentality to do that. And that's not normal. Now, I know sometimes we can get caught up in the chaos and think that it's normal. That's not normal behavior. Getting drunk all the time, if you're a hard drinker, that's not normal behavior. Using drugs, that's not normal behavior. If you have to have a drink, a beer, after you leave work every day, that's not normal behavior. There's something's wrong. But I know sometimes we get caught up in the chaos. We might be having a good time. We live in that life, and we think this is what it is. We're having a good time. But once you get older, and hopefully you get wiser, you're going to see that a lot of stuff that you probably did back in the day, or you had the experience of being around, is a lot of it was just a bunch of BS. A lot of it was just a waste of time and very unproductive. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I never talk about my Navy stories very often. I don't talk about it because the reason why I don't is because a lot of stuff happened in the Navy that I'm not really proud of. Like, for example, I never really wanted to meet a bunch of women all around the world. And, you know, some of them I slept with, a lot of them I didn't. But I just never wanted to do that. I didn't plan that. You know, that was just a part of the territory. That was just a part of being in the Navy, really. You know, and being in the Navy, believe it or not, is the closest thing next to being a celebrity. Believe it or not, being in the Navy is the closest thing to being a celebrity, an instant celebrity, as soon as you put on that uniform. And I really didn't understand the star power until about 6 months later, after being in the Navy. And I found out about it once we went to Australia, Thailand, Dubai, Hawaii, and it was another place we went to that that kind of blew my mind. Yeah, it was it was two places in Hawaii and Sydney in Australia. It was Sydney and Perth. Sydney and Perth, Hawaii, Thailand, and San Diego too. Yeah, San Diego too. This is when I experienced the star power. That's what I call it. Star power is when you get off the Navy ship, or when you walk through the door, you got on your uniform, or maybe the people know what organization you're affiliated with, or maybe they know who you're down with, or maybe they know who you're rolling with. You don't have to say anything. All you gotta do is grab a woman's hand, and she's coming with you. That's it. That's the extent of most interactions we had once we got off the Navy ship. And anybody that's listening to me that really know me, that was in the Navy with me, they can co-sign this. When we hit these ports, these countries, all around the world, on that side of on the Western world, the Western world would be, they call it Westpac, but it would be like Australia, Dubai, Guam, those UAE, that side of the world, Thailand, all of that, Japan, all that. Now, when people that know me, that listen to me, they can co-sign that. When we got off of that ship, you didn't have to do no talking. I don't care if you had on your uniform or you had on street clothing. There wasn't no talking. It was like, hey, grab her hand, and wherever you go, they're coming. Not only is she coming, her friends is coming. That was the extent of that interaction. It wasn't no negotiation. It wasn't no, I gotta talk you into coming with us. No. And these women brought us into their house, their apartment, wherever they lived at. You know, I've never had experience like that in America in my life. It doesn't happen like that for the average Joe. It just doesn't happen. You know, I'm not saying we were average. Being in the military, of course, we're not average, but just for the average guy at I'm 20 years old at the time. It doesn't happen like that. You know, and plus, I wasn't ready for that. I was caught off guard because I was very shy at the time. I mean, I'm still shy today, but I push myself to do things. But back then, I was very shy. I mean, and very bashful. I didn't really say very much unless you said something to me first, and then I had to warm up to you. That's when I saw that star power, man. It was like kind of unbelievable for me personally at the time because I mean, yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I wasn't so sociable with women, especially very attractive women. You know, I mean, whenever a very attractive girl came around that I was attracted to, I started acting all silly and saying silly and stupid stuff. But when I went in the Navy, I was like, yo, I never seen women flock to guys like that. They don't even do this on the football team. They don't even do this to the athletes in college. Not on this level. So, it's just that was just a part of being in the Navy. And I'm not necessarily proud of it. I had a good time, but I didn't want to meet all those women. I didn't want to sleep with all those women. I didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted to be with one girl basically, but it didn't really go down like that. And I didn't really start meeting quality women, I would say, until 2 years after me being in the Navy, because I started to figure out just being in the Navy, this thing wasn't what I thought it was. Just the way the world operates and how these countries do trades amongst each other and how they do business amongst each other, and big corporations do business amongst each other. It's not the way that they explain it within the mainstream media. So that's when I started to figure out things, and I stayed in my lane basically, did my time, and got up out of there. And I know a lot of guys that, they kind of want to get out of that. They don't glorify it and they're not proud of it. Yeah, you get the opportunity to have sex with some of the most beautiful women, in the world or on the planet. Yeah, that's cool. But even that, after a while, it kind of get old. I mean, because a lot of these women you don't have anything in common with, really. I mean, a lot of them are pretty much the same, you know, really. Y'all don't really have very little to talk about, and the majority of women you meet are going to be the same, average, really. It doesn't matter where you go at, based on my experience. It's really a lot of it's based on who you are, because you get what you are, not what you want. So that has a lot to do with it. But a lot of these guys, even the guys that get married, a lot of these guys that get married, they have the uh, polygamy type relationships going on, and a lot of times that's more about the women involved more than the guy, based on my experience, because I know some people that practice polygamy, and a lot of guys think that's about sex, having more than one woman to have sex with, and that's not really the case, really. Based on the people that I've known over the past 20 years, that's more of a business decision. And relationships is about business anyway, no doubt about it. And if you don't believe it, go down to the courthouse in your local area, and you see exactly what I'm talking about. They're laughing all the way to the bank, the judges and district attorneys. So all relationships, whether politically or at the core, however you want to see it, it's just all about business, because this is why they always say you're only as strong as the people that you have around you. And your network is your net worth. So it just is what it is. We live in a capitalistic society. And, you know, at the end of the day, when it's time for you to leave here, because we all got to go sometime, you're going to have 3 to 5 people around your bed, you know, wherever you end up, whether you're at home or wherever you're in the hospital. You're going to have 3 to 5 people that's going to be there. That's it. So the best you can do is live your life to the fullest and try to surround yourself around people that care about you, that have your best interests at heart. And it's not always easy out here today, because it's hard for a lot of people to trust people. And I understand it, because I used to be that way too. But today, see, I play a different game. Today, see, I don't really need anything from anybody. That's the thing. I don't have any hidden agendas, because I really don't need anything from anybody. See, that's the point where you want to get to. You want to get to a point where people can offer you stuff, people can do stuff for you, and just be grateful. They can look out for you and just be grateful. But you don't want to put yourself in a position where you need people to do stuff. Because if you need people to do stuff for you, you're going to be at the expense of someone else. Your destiny is going to be in someone else's hand. See, the goal is to be as self-sufficient as possible. Now, you're always going to have to be able to answer to somebody, some entity, some company, or whatever. So you're never going to be totally self-sufficient. You know, you're always going to have to be able to answer to somebody. You know, even if you have to get a passport, you got to answer to somebody. Even if you want to get a credit card, you got to answer to somebody or some company, some entity. But you want to be as self-sufficient as possible. That's why that's why you should want to strive to make as much money as possible in the least amount of time, you know. And you always want to focus on opportunities and always be building. Always be building with your friends, your family, as much as possible, or at least with the ones that are open, you know. Because the reality is, you need money to live. You don't have to be broke. You don't have to be rich either, but you don't have to be broke. Not in today's time. Not, you know, the way the marketplace is wide open today. It wasn't like this 20, 25, 30 years ago. But today, it's wide open. However, at the same time, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of saturated. And there's a lot of snakes and fakes and scams, and, you know, it's a lot of things you have to be aware of. That's why I started my brand new channel called Day Job Bailout Plan. And I'm going to be giving out a lot of game, a lot of strategies, a lot of things you should be aware of. That way you won't go through all the trials and tribulations as I did. So, you know, at the end of the day, most guys that I know want to be with one woman, but living in the United States of America, they make it so difficult in this environment, because this environment doesn't really support monogamous relationships. Doesn't really support man and woman and family being together. It's very difficult to maintain. It's hard, very difficult for most guys to even find the woman, the right woman for them, and then it's hard to maintain and keep the relationship. I mean, today, if I was in my 20s, say if I was 25 years old, and if I was to find the right woman for me, and if I was to get married, if you get 10 years out of a marriage, consider yourself lucky. Consider yourself to have really, I would say congratulations to you. That's what I would say. And if you notice, I never recommend guys to get married. I would never do that because of the climate. And I understand, you know, being that we're in such a capitalistic society, that makes it difficult to maintain relationships, because most people you meet, male or female, they aren't coming from a good space. They aren't coming from a positive environment, and they're not being backed with people, friends and family that really support them. In most cases, most people, the people that they're closest to, don't really have their back, don't really have their best interests. So whenever you go out and meet men and women, just know that they're not coming from a good space. They're not coming from a positive environment. They're not around people that really have their best interests at heart. That's very rare. It's very rare. Most people, you know, they go through all kinds of stuff on a weekly basis. People call them names. People downplay them, don't appreciate them for who they are. They only appreciate them for the resources that they have. You know, a lot of people go through that, you know, and a lot of times you probably will never know, because a lot of people put on a good face when they come around you, you know. So, and a lot of people have a lot of pain, a lot of things that they're going through, especially in their relationships, you know. So that's why when people come around me, I try to have compassion. I treat them nice. I try to treat them the way they the way they would want to be treated. And, you know, that takes time, and that takes a little commitment on your part if you want to be friends with them, if you want to get to know them, or if you want to eventually one day be friends with them long term. So, and I talk about a lot of this in my book, Love Can't Wait. Go get that. Amazon.com, baby. So, if you join my Players Club, you get my book, Love Can't Wait, for free. So, if you like what you heard, check out my blog, ChooseYourRelationship.com. Subscribe to my channel. And if you got questions, I got answers. And P.S. and by the way, if you want any questions answered by me, click the link below as well. So until next time, I'm out. Peace.